going on, everyone?
Oh, it's like the red zone offense.
Oh, that was amazing. That was, I think I'm going to keep that. I'm just going to keep it because you're right.
You can't change that.
That's my homage to the Packers offense. That's pretty good.
Amen.
I love it.
Amen.
I was trying to say welcome back to Beer and Ball, but so much for that. You know what? You know what the problem is there, Bill? You know what the problem is I haven't had my sip of beer yet. Here we go.
That's the problem. Yep, you got to lubricate
now
the vocal glands.
Now we're good to
there you go.
Now we're good
baby.
to go.
Loosen it up, warm it up.
Man, I mean,
this is what a 5-game loser does to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, my goodness.
What a bender does to you, man.
Look, heading into that game last Sunday night in Buffalo, that's a game where schedule comes out in April. I circle, the 2 or 3 games I expect them to most likely just come up a little short. I'm not going to say I think they're going to lose, but that has a good chance they might lose this game. Buffalo is one of those. In Detroit, against that team, not what I was expecting, not what I was hoping for. And it was kind of interesting to hear both Matt and Aaron kind of check that idea as far as we can't play like that and lose to that team. They both said that
Admitted
team.
It. Yep.
I mean, that's not a good football team.
No.
And you not only lost to them, you lost to them with your superstar 4-time MVP quarterback throwing away essentially 24 points. I mean, I don't know how you don't begin and end this game and talking about it and looking at it and analyzing it without headlining, underlining, italicize, put the Sharpie on it, put the highlighter on it, how bad Aaron Rodgers was. I mean,
and especially
mystifying.
Next, and especially for, I'll speak for myself here, as somebody that was gung-ho on staying locked in as long as you could to Aaron Rodgers and at least trying to prolong whatever window you believed you were still in. Right. I mean, now that is the part that's been slammed shut. I mean, I think that was the clearest part of it on Sunday was the fact that you now are looking forward at just about every decision they make for the last 8 games is going to be about 2023 and beyond, right? Like, I mean, there's something to saving face. There's obvious to keeping the locker room somewhat sane. But dude, It's going to be freaking tough when you're sitting here at 3-6 and that kind of arrogance, confidence, whatever you want to say it, I thought kind of seeped into the way they played. I thought the 4th and 1 call is an arrogant freaking call.
What are we doing?
How do you have the confidence and the arrogance to believe that this offense is going to execute that with as much as I love a fat guy touching the football?
I mean, we all do.
Praise it.
We all want fat guy touchdowns.
Dude,
but I want a fat guy touchdown. I want a fat guy touchdown like when we're maybe up a score, maybe haven't lost 4 games in a row, maybe the season isn't pretty much on the line. That's not what I call the fat guy throwback touchdown.
To maybe the guy that's been practicing throughout the entire year that you'd be able to rep that maybe like once a week. Not the dude that you don't know if he's going to be on the bike or on the field, dude. Like, it was mystifying to think that is the call that you come out of a timeout with for the 4th down play when your offense is struggling. Now, part of my frustration with that one is I was in the take the points category because that's like, dude, you're in a defeatist mindset of you haven't been in this position to think that you can make and execute, gotta have it plays, even against that team, which is the scariest part. I mean,
yes.
Friday when we were getting ready for the show or getting ready for the game on the show, Heller said, dude, I think they're going to lose. I'm like, first off, can't have that shit. Okay. You lock it up right now. Can't talk that way. We're not manifesting that. But that was in a 38-35. How can they keep up with a number 1 offense? Not them scoring 9 points and, like you saying, them throwing most of them away.
I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, everyone else on that team can be looked at and put under a microscope, and you can see, okay, they could have done this better or they could have done that better. And there's no doubt that, everybody's got something to work on. But despite all of that, they're still in a position to win that game if the quarterback just takes care of the football, which he's done the entirety of his career.
Yes.
It's mind-blowing to me to couple that, the interceptions, with the idea that there are at least 3 clips that you can pull from that game, and probably if you're being generous or not generous, or you're being mean, probably 3 or 4 others
If you're
where
really
he is
locked on.
turning down wide open guys. I mean, just guys that are open. And there's one in particular where, I mean, DeGuara is screaming
Yeah.
wide open over the middle, and he looks right at him. There's another one, Tunyon's open, Touré's open, and he just turns that down. And
Ends up getting sacked. Yeah.
I just don't understand what now. My own, like, the only, like, in the universe explanation is that it was the last daylight savings game, hopefully, and the Packers have lost
good
like
one.
seven in a row.
I like
So get that bugaboo out there, and hopefully,
Mhm.
if the Senate has their way, we'll be done with daylight savings time by the time they have to play another one, and then we won't have to worry about it. But other than that, I have no explanation for how bad Aaron Rodgers was on Sunday.
Yeah, and I've thought the thumb has impacted his play since the Giants game, but I never thought that it was like impacting his confidence in the throws that he was making. He was doubting some of those throws that he was making. And like I've always thought that the body language is like the biggest laughing stock part of it. When you're talking about leadership,
I can't do body language, police. It's not my thing.
but I will say it from this side of it, from his frustration level that I think he was feeling on himself. That was the worst he's seen himself play. And that's a scary proposition because at that point, then there is some of it that becomes mental. He's not going to doubt himself, like we heard that in the post game. But no, I think there's a clear knowledge that he knows he can't make throws right now that he's accustomed to making, and that's a little scary for him.
I think, and there's really something to that. I talked with Kuhn about that actually on the Shameless Packers pod. The idea of, because I was asking John, like, as a pro athlete, do you believe in the yips? Do you believe in like kind of just a mental block like that? And John was like, sure. It might manifest itself in different ways, but like it's just a streak where you're struggling, etc., and you can't stop thinking about it, and you kind of get in your own way. My frustration going back and watching Aaron in this game was, so to your point, is the thumb affecting him? Most likely. I mean, you saw him get hit on the touchdown throw to Lazard, right? And he comes back up and he's kind of wincing and holding it and whatever. All that. I get it. I understand. I mean, on the flip side, you are between the white lines and you're going to get judged accordingly. That's just the game, right?
Very
now,
true.
All of that said, shouldn't you, as a quarterback, as a 4-time MVP, as a guy who has literally told the world about how you went back and watched your practice film from 2010 or whatever it was, and saw some things you were doing and then adjusted your game, etc., shouldn't you be leaning into your fundamentals more if you are struggling or dealing with an injury, and that is kind of impacting how you're able to throw the football, how you're able to deliver it? Because, man, whether it's the miss to Toure, whether it's the interception that goes off dude's helmet, like, there are just, sideline slings, and he's falling off his back foot, and he's just like gunslinging it. And I'm like, well, no shit, these throws are terrible.
Yeah.
The fundamentals have gone to complete shit. I have trophies in my house from all fundamentals team back in JV college or whatever it is, whatever quip he likes to throw out there. But it's like, that's the thing that should be lean. That's where the cleanup has to happen. If you are struggling physically, you've got to play with better fundamentals, because look, if you just throw the classic, like, over hand up, like, get over the top with that throw in the red zone, that's a touchdown to Lazard rather than a ball that bounces off dude's helmet. It's just laziness. And that's where I'm just kind of mystified. And I'm pretty sure after that game, I'll be interested to hear what Rodgers has to say on McAfee. But I'd love to know what Tom Clements had to say about that performance. Because if nothing changes and he doesn't get, kind of hounded about it, then we know Tom Clements is just there to drink wine and talk to Aaron and reminisce.
You hit it right on the head with that last one. Like, at some point, if it's the fundamentals, wasn't that one of the biggest parts of Tom Clements coming back? Or is Tom Clements working with Jordan Love exclusively at this point? I mean, like, there's a lot to when you bring in somebody who has been stressed of his importance in fundamentals at that spot. And the other part of it is like the rhythm and timing. He has been so boisterous about, and I think factual of it, that if you're going to get older, your legs are going to be the first one to go. So
Right.
strengthen that and lean on that. And especially if your upper body is hurt, lean a little bit more on that part of it. Lean into, I know that my lower body's okay. I know that I can step in, keep my timing and rhythm going. And that's where the confidence comes into, but then the confidence
Lean
is on the
into
outside.
structure, lean into your fundamentals. That is going to it's only going to help you.
I don't know who it was asked the question. Maybe it was Wildy. Probably Wildy. It was a longer one of the explanation of like, are you feeling you can run your offense? It was to Matt yesterday, right? Like, do you feel like
that was Wildy.
it was Wildy, right? Like, because
Yep.
I'm trying to remember how the question was phrased, but it was stressed of, do you think that the offense that Matt LaFleur wants run is better than the one that Aaron is playing on the field if you're dinged up, if you have youth? And I mean,
I thought
Matt
Matt
stated
did
it perfectly, but
Matt did a very good job of punting, as he always
very well,
does.
yeah.
You got to think Matt's kind of frustrated with all that, right? I mean, there's so much going on at the line of scrimmage. Every play has got some kind of check, some kind of signal. Now, some of that's dummy. I understand. Like, not all of that is live. Like, I get it. But man, then you see dudes like on the tape just running really weird route combos, and you saw all the misses, all the miscommunication. I mean, Sammy Watkins, do they practice all week? What happens out there?
Craziness, ain't it?
You know, so there's so many adjustments at the line and blah, blah, blah. I gotta think LaFleur is sitting here going, can we just call a play and run it? Like, because there's something on almost every play, and they're going down to 1 second on the play clock on almost every play. Like, it's bizarre to me.
And I know there's a marriage of that, because on every play there's some kind of motion, right? Like, there's a check and there's some kind of motion, seemingly,
there
of like
used
short,
to be.
could be short motion, could be
Right.
hold on, you're lined up wrong, make sure we're over here.
Right.
And I can't not say it, because I mean, I think we stressed it a lot in the Buffalo game. First play of the first half, first play of the second half, one of your rookie receivers goes down and you don't see him again. I mean, like, that is also freaking tough, just from inside the white lines of
100%.
God, dude, can we get something to go right for us? And that's another part of, I mean, the being able to manifest greatness for everybody and calm the situation down. They have not been able to calm the situation down. It's been exasperated every single time. And that's where slides just continue to go down. And that's why, Nags, I think it's a very fair question, like, as frustrating as it is today, is that rock bottom? Because it most likely gets worse before it gets better.
Let me tell you something. I said this to Kuhn. Like, I look, it felt like rock bottom, right? But the more I thought about it, and the more I've thought about it, I'm like, man, it could potentially get so much worse. You look at the next 3 opponents. I mean, that's starting obviously Sunday against the Cowboys, but then you turn it around and you've got the Titans, and then you've got the Eagles. That Titans game's on a short week. I just, man, it could get so ugly. And dudes got to know, they are not only playing for whatever it is they're going to do this year, but it's also, you're putting tape out there for all the 31 other teams, guys who are going to be free agents, guys who may towards the end of a contract, etc.
Well,
you are putting it all out there, and this team could very well just be, it could be lights out over ugly in about 3 weeks' time.
And that's really dangerous when guys start playing and thinking that way, because then you get more and more situations on the defensive side, on the outside, of frustration, ego, a lot of times undisciplined, because everybody's thinking about, I got to make some big play to be able to stand out and have myself on film and teams be able to see me. And man, people are start writing their own checks, and that's a dangerous spot to be in with 8 games left. I mean,
right. There's so much football left to be played.
Dude,
and that's why
try to find their next one. Try to find their next dub.
Sunday against the Cowboys. Let's go. I don't know. I don't know.
Come on now. I like that.
I will say, though, like, there's so much football left to be played. Like, I can't even say the season's over. And I know, for all intents and purposes, it is over. But crazier things have happened. And they 100%. Just need one. They just need one.
Well, and I think the other part of it is, I think it was Big Swag who was screaming at everybody on ESPN this morning about the well, you got to see what Jordan Love can do. You got to see what Jordan Love can do. And we talked about it on Packers OT right out of the gates. I mean, everything was on the table after you.
Oh yeah, after that game, no doubt.
But we had a season ticket holder call and say, "Hold on, all right, I didn't pay to watch some B average guy walk on in for tryouts. All right. The NFL, I paid money for it. And I thought, okay, hold on. I understand where you're coming from. The other part of it is, that's kind of why you pay somebody $50 million. Oh,
that's
you want to have
that's what I keep saying on my chats, like or on Twitter. People are like, we got to find out what you got to put in Love. I'm like, man, Love ain't getting on the field unless Aaron Rodgers gets really hurt.
Yeah.
Or the season is mathematically over and he's really hurt. Like those are the only two ways.
You really want people to be upset about the money? Make $50 million and only play half the year. I mean, then people will really start talking about cash. And that is crazy. I've thought about this over the last like 12, 14 hours, and maybe Tuesday, November 8th has something to do with it as we're recording this, because people are very worried about the whole, what's going on forward. What are we doing for the next 4 years? Hey, think about it this way. Think about, like Aaron Nagler said, let's think about what we're doing 4 days from now. And that's kicking the shit out of the Dallas Cowboys when they walk on up here. Even for 5 minutes, we're trying to do that.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, I'm done. Like, I am just going to mercilessly roast Matt and Aaron for the rest of the season. Every game that they don't get Aaron Jones the football. And I know that's going to be every week. So it's over. Like, I'm done. I'm resigned to it's never going to happen.
Especially after
the way it should. They legit came off that Buffalo game, saw what they could do when they ran like more power and a little more angle blocking, and they came out and threw it 6 times in a row.
Right out of the gates. 6 straight times.
Aaron Jones didn't touch the ball until 8 plays into the game.
And then said, hold on, we got to run it like 4 straight times. Well, we got to overcompensate this.
I hate it so much. They make it so tough. They make it like they're playing Madden out there. I legit think Aaron and Matt play a game of Madden and go, yep, that's the game plan for this week. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. I will say, though, because we got to talk about the defense, but I mean, they found a player in Zach Tom.
Yeah,
this kid, everywhere they plug him in, he's just playing better and better. Yep. And like, your multi-billion-dollar left tackle is like, yeah, I'm out for the second half until right at the end. I'm going to go ride the bike. And they're like, Zach, get back in there. Like,
okay, cool.
You got to move around. And
yeah, I got you. Don't worry.
Somebody at left tackle. We're going to put another guy over here. And like, Zach, like, here's your third position in 3 weeks. Get out there. Like,
go from right to the left side in game and guard the tackle.
That guy is a find.
Well, he's also fine, and he's classic Packers line, right? Like they talk about their cross training. I mean, they've done that in 9 games with him. I don't know how much they're doing with Sean Ryan, but they've found it with Tom, and they're going to lock that up. And I think that's going to be one of the things going forward that you think about for these last 8 games, because you're going to want to see a little bit of what he does on the outside, because I mean, he looks like he can play there.
Yep.
And you got a big decision coming March 14th,
whatever
3 days before the league year on Bakhtiari. So there's he can absolutely play. John Runyon bounced back, had a good game. And despite a lot of the issues around him, I thought Josh Myers has gotten better. Like
I do too.
Each and every game. I thought he was going to take the gigantic leap, Pro Bowl second-year player. Hasn't, but I think he's gotten increasingly better each
He's improved.
Yep.
I totally agree. What I love, my favorite plays are when they get him on the move, because that guy can get on a horse, man.
Yep.
When they get him out in space and they do that thing where they kind of pull him and someone else and they get out on the edge, that is so much fun to watch. He can move, man.
He can get skinny, and then he makes himself really wide and agile through, right? Like the little chip that he gets on a linebacker just with a quick elbow.
On his way up. Yep.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So good.
He can.
So good.
That's the other part of it, dude. I think that you're going to have a big decision, a big conversation at the end of the year. We got a lot of fucking time to have those conversations. But they do have pieces throughout that are going to hold over. And there's things to be happy about. It's not all bad, but sure feels that way.
You lose 5 in a row, that's going to happen. I mean,
and then you got to throw out that the Brewers have won a game more recently than the Packers. I mean, that was a freaking crotch shot, dude.
Somebody put it up on my chat after the game.
Come on.
I had to share that. That was like too good. That was too good a nugget. Like someone wrote it in the gut reactions chat while I was doing like the live kind of reaction thing, and I was like, oh my God. I think I said it on the chat. I was like, oh my God. That is a fucking knife to the heart, man. Let's talk about this
like no other.
Let's talk about the fact that Jair Alexander is still Jair Alexander, and that is so fun to watch. I would love to get your take, because I was surprised at the kind of negative pushback and or let's not say vitriol, but like the people attacking Jair for that penalty out of bounds. And I was like, yeah, he's frustrated. And did it cost the team? Yep, no doubt about it. But he also had the biggest defensive play of the game with an interception, which should have completely swung the game and didn't, because they have an inept offense. But it's like he was his regular physical, awesome self. And people are like, oh, he's costing us. He's so selfish. It's like, man, get out of here with that. He was emotionally, they had a rough second there. And yes, he got flagged, and you flush it and move on, man.
Yeah.
He's still Jair Alexander. It just blows my mind that people are like, oh, this one moment, it's just like, well, that just invalidates everything else he's doing. What?
If I'd be honest, I was more upset with the penalty on the extra point, because that was the hardest rush you've seen off the edge in 3 weeks on the extra point. Yep. So it's like, well, at that point,
Corey said,
it's because you're pissed off.
That kicker leaned into it. That kicker leaned into it.
Totally.
No, he didn't hit him.
He baited him.
Leaned into it. Yeah.
And the guy also shanked it to New Richmond, Michigan.
Like,
that's the worst part of it.
Didn't even need. Well, although he probably only does that because Jair's flashing in front of him.
Because he knows that it's a miss. He kind of rushes himself.
It's about to get blocked. So
there's
Jair's awesome.
I think even more of it is because of the Quay Walker thing last week. And
right. Yep.
I also think there's something with people had their ire up for Jair in the beginning of the year. Remember the captain deal? Because he's not, he doesn't have the C on his chest, and he's like, well, yeah, I took it personally. Like, I should. I'm a competitor. I want to be a captain. I think that was more of like oh, he's telling his teammates to screw off. No, it's not. He's more just saying, I'm the most highly paid corner on this football team, highest paid guy in the secondary. I should be looked at like a leader, and obviously they don't right now because I couldn't stay healthy last year. That does kind of hurt.
It's funny to me that like
up about it because of Zadarius last year.
Because I was just gonna say, so there's the Z residue there, right? But
exactly, total Z residue.
I will say this as someone who does multiple podcasts a week and does a daily chat and a weekly show, and then does a live stream of the game. Like, I understand I am a hyper nerd. Like, I am a Packers uber nerd. But it blows my mind that there are fans who keep track of that stuff, who like care about it. Like the whole drama around who's a captain and who's not. And I know that the beat covers it like it's, Watergate or something. It's like, this person was clearly, disrespected because they weren't voted captain. I'm like, my brothers in Christ, it's not that serious. Like, it really isn't.
Guys are meeting
like
on the
every
outside.
single thing about the Packers gets like completely scrutinized into like oblivion, to where we can't just enjoy it as escapist entertainment anymore. Like, it's just football, man.
Meeting with a source at Sammy's trying to get the bachelor information. How did the voting process go down? I can't reveal my source.
So I cannot reveal my source, but I understand that there was a blind vote, and like, what are we doing here?
Oh God, yeah.
That whole storyline gets so overworked, and more every year.
Yes, and a lot of it had to be stoked by Z and
the Z thing. No doubt.
When you buy yourself a chain of it, that's something different.
And hey, shout out to Z, playing well there in Minnesota.
Good for him, dude.
He got paid. He's playing well. He's on a winning team.
Does that team not feel completely 2019 Packers like?
Oh yeah, big time. And I
don't
can't
know
wait
how you're winning games.
I can't wait until it all burns down at the end of the year, because it will. It's the Vikings.
Yeah,
that's what they'll do.
I just
know. I just don't care. I hope they're no. It'd be great. I'll tell you what. one of the greatest nights of my life was watching the Vikings go to Philadelphia. Super Bowl's
Oh
in their
God,
home
that was
squad,
good.
and they're
Yep.
like a game away from hosting their own Super Bowl, and then it all burns down thanks to Nick Foles. I mean, give me that every time. I love it.
That
I
was
love it
good. And
so
that was
much.
one of the first times I realized that I could find Paul Allen's radio call. And I listened to most of that game
Right.
on their part of the
Oh,
iHeart app. And I'm like, wow, thank you
nice.
so much.
Nice. Oh god,
Thank you so
that
much.
is a gift. That is a gift. One other guy I wanted to talk about on the defensive side of the ball was the rookie, Wyatt.
Hey,
Can
how
we get this
about it?
kid on the
Yep.
field more? Can we get him on the field
It's
more?
coming.
I understand that, you know, they've got a rotation and this is what they want to do as far as splitting the reps, and they want Dean Lowry out there, they want Jaron Reed out there, but like this kid needs to be on the field more. He's only going to get better if he plays more. It's ready. It's time. He needs to play more. He needs to be on the
Yeah.
field more.
There's some of that. I think at that spot there's a little bit more that you can learn off the field before getting like fully thrust in with like a 55-60% snap load or whatever.
Right.
But he has increased each and every week, and within the next 3 weeks I think he's starting to overtake a little bit more and more of 94's snaps.
Yeah, I would think so. That would be my
Jaron
guess anyway.
Jaron Reed was keeping him off the field. Jaron Reed's going to start letting him onto the field
I
a little
mean,
bit more.
that's a curious kind of, I'm not going to say a dive, but man, he has fallen off. Like
Mhm.
I was so
Yeah.
excited about him this summer, and it has not materialized the way I'd hoped.
Well, and
And
I thought
probably
he
not how the
started
Packers hoped.
fast. First 3
Right.
games,
Agreed.
he was playing really, really well. And when
Agreed.
people were calling like, "Oh, why can't this rookie get on the field?" I'm like, "Well, 90's playing really well." That's
Yeah.
taken a step back. It has slid in with a little bit more of a growth, a little maturation with him. It takes a couple of weeks. The other part of it, Negs, you've seen these cats. Like, that's a real year when you go from
Yep.
the amount of football that dude's played in the last
Yes.
year and a half, one calendar year, going all the way to the national title game, prepping for the draft, then right into rookie camp, right into mini camp. So his snap load, I think, is going to start increasing, but I think that's part of it. And there's not going to be any people calling about 95 being a bust, I don't think, as they wanted to on Packers OT the first 4 weeks.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's been going on Twitter since training camp. It's
But he
so
gets
much
off
fun.
the ball really,
Yes.
really quickly.
Yes, he does. Yes, please.
What you saw in Georgia.
I want more of that. The other kind of narrative / storyline thing I think we have to talk about is the loss of Rashawn Gary. I mean, you talk about just an insane blow of everything coming out of that game. And like, I know they most likely, because we still don't have official word on Stokes as we're recording this, but didn't sound like that was going to be very good, judging from Matt's response yesterday. But at least there's a way forward there that you can see it, right? It's pretty easy. You've got Douglas and Jair on the outside, and you probably slide Nixon into that slot corner role. And let's roll, man. I'm down with that. And I know I've seen some people suggest like moving Savage down into the slot. And I guess that might work, but I think that's the Nixon thing is probably how they'll go.
Was Joe Barry prompted on that question when he said that last week?
I can't remember.
Yeah, because I can't remember if it was or not.
I think so. I think somebody asked him about it. Yeah.
He's like, "Oh yeah, I think he would be there." I'm like, "Okay, well that probably isn't a great great log to throw on this fire that's roasting around you, bud." Sorry.
No. But then like you look at the loss of Rashawn Gary, and man, Enigbari has done some nice stuff as a rookie, and he's going to have to play a whole hell of a lot more.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting to see how quickly they throw him into the fire, so to speak, because I do think more likely than not, for the like base downs, early downs where they think they're still a threat of the run game, etc., I wouldn't be surprised to see Garvin out there ahead of him.
Yeah.
But then in passing situations or more obvious passing situations, you gotta think, right? Like they gotta get this kid on the field in those situations. But it's going to be interesting to see how they hold up, and if teams go at them early, like whatever side Preston's on is like, okay, well, now we're going to run at the opposite side and see whoever's out there, how they hold up. And I think Garvin can hold up against the run, but he offers you nothing when it comes to rushing the passer.
No, and he had a nice reaction on the goal line play this week, but that's because of what he does in the run game. Yep. Preston has played it really, really well throughout. He's going to get, I think, a lot more attention, and it's going to look a little bit worse. So I want that to be a little bit of a preference to it. But yeah, man, I mean, for the loss of Gary, first off, personally,
The worst.
that's the worst time going into what could be a monster extension year.
Should have been a big contract in the offseason. That's probably going to be put on the back burner now. No
It's
doubt.
going to get put on the back burner. There's going to be some turmoil. There's going to be some bad blood. There's going to be some frustration. Like that part of it I fucking hate. But from the here and now, you're right. Ngabare, I thought that third pass rusher was going to be huge just because you play, right? Like in training camp, like somebody's going to play a good like 30% of the snaps. Now you're going to play at least 55, almost 60, because they'll compensate it. You're right. I think early downs with Garvin. But Ngabare is going to find himself in a lot of second and third down runs.
Yep.
He's going to grow up quick, play in the SEC.
Baptism by fire, baby.
Amen. Amen. Right. But they've got some good right tackles coming up here pretty soon. I mean, Lane Johnson's going to be up there. I like that Minnesota offensive line. So it's
what world are we living in?
Breaths already here so far, huh?
What's that?
There's been a lot of deep breaths on this podcast this week.
I mean, look, when you lose 5 in a row, you need as much oxygen as you can get. Goodness. So, all right, Mike McCarthy returns on Sunday to Lambeau Field. These Dallas Cowboys looking damn good. I mean, the fact that they kept the season alive and thriving with a backup quarterback for as many weeks as they did, obviously the polar opposite for the most part of what Mike did with Brett Hundley back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But now you put Dak back in that equation, and they look fucking scary against the Bears. How do you see this playing out? I mean, there's no doubt that the Cowboys are favored, and I think most people will probably pick the Cowboys in this game. What do the Packers got to do? What's their path to victory on Sunday against these
Well,
Cowboys?
first thing is you got to slow down Micah Parsons. Like their offense, well and good. You got to slow down Micah Parsons when he's rushing the passer. You got to chip him. You got to keep him neutralized because that team feeds off of what he does. Like when he's on the field and when he's off the field, completely different team, completely different vibe. So you got to keep him contained. Like he's going to have big plays, going to have a couple of TFLs, but you cannot allow him for on one series to have, like 2 hurries and 2 hits, right? Like you can't have that. And they got to get one. I sure hope Zeke plays as much as Jerry Jones made it seem like he is.
Please,
that sounds very good to me. Keep Tony Pollard off the field, and you're going to have to be able to get off on third down. I mean, I don't think the Cowboys offense is very electric. They're going to move the ball. They're going to move the chains. They play pretty complimentary, more 50-50 than Mike did. I think probably how he wanted to a lot more of on certain occasions, but they're a defensive team that can score. Yes, and that's the part of it for me is keep their defense at least neutralized from making the big play and changing the momentum of the game. And then you got a chance. But I said, what is the spread going to be? I thought it was going to be like 6.5 when it opened. Opened at 4.5. It's going to get to 6.5. I think it's at 5 right now. I mean, it's continuing to move. And
can't say I'm surprised.
Not a lot of faith.
Surprised it opened so
I was
close.
Too. Yeah, I was too.
All right. Lambeau
I thought it was going to be more.
Still holding sway. I'll take it. I will take it. All right, Billy. Well, we'll see what transpires on Sunday. Always a joy to talk to you here on Beer and Ball. Everybody should be listening to Packers OT. If you're not, make sure you check him out at 97.3. The Game, every post game, he and Drew holding it down. I mean, look, I don't know how many more losses we're gonna take in a row, but we'll be here to talk about each and every one, each and every week. Thanks so much for the time, buddy.
Appreciate it, brother.